name's Grace, and I've decided to do a little podcast, a little knitting / travelling podcast, just because I've become completely addicted to podcasts, and I keep just chatting away to everybody during their podcast, and they can't hear me and I look crazy, so this feels slightly less crazy, but more crazy, because I'm talking to myself. But, you know, whatever. This is how much I care about that. Let's zero. No, I do care a little bit. It's nerve-wracking a little bit doing this, because you never know who's gonna like it or not like it, and if you don't like it, that's fine. Move along. There's plenty of other things to see, plenty of other things to do with your life. You know, you don't need to waste it with me. But if you do like what you see, I have a couple of plans for what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of podcasts, if it works out. I'll probably just do it anyway, because I have it written down in my book. So, written down, planned. I had a plan, sort of, kind of. We'll see if it works out or not. It might not. So, a little bit about me. My name is Grace. I'm Irish. I'm from a little town, well actually it's the third biggest city in Ireland, called Limerick. And yes, I do have a limerick about me. Because I did this all before and I didn't have a limerick, and I said, oh, I'm from Limerick, and everyone goes, like the poem? And I'm like, I don't know any. So this is a little poem I'm gonna read to you. There was a young girl called Grace, who knitted at a very slow pace. She'd drop a stitch there, but she wouldn't care, because the last thing it is a race. Isn't that exciting? And I am addicted to travelling and making. I'm just addicted to making things, and I have to be making something at all times. I think I'm fidgety, and I can't just be doing one thing. I can't be cooking. I can't just be cooking. I have to have like a podcast in the background, or music on, or an audiobook. I have to be doing two things at once. Otherwise I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I'm wasting my time a little bit. Like, you only get a certain amount of time on this planet, and I feel like I need to use as much of it as possible. I used to just, I've always been making stuff. I did an art degree. I loved art, loved drawing, loved writing. I wrote so many pages of terrible fan fiction around Harry Potter. Addicted to Harry Potter as well. So many terrible pages, but I loved it, and it was an excuse not to do my homework. And I used to tell my mum, I was like, no, it's just my English essay. It's a very long English essay, Grace, 1,000 pages. So yeah, I used to just always be making something, writing, and then it went into art, fine art, and then I became a printmaker. I specialised in printmaking, and I became a bookbinder. So I used to bind all of my books, and that's, I think, where I first started getting interested in sewing and fabric and fibre, more because I used to make my own paper. It wasn't very good, because I used to make it out of other like commercial paper, not real like fibres, like original fibres, because they were already smashed up, you know, so it's recycled. Well, I was recycling, I'm into recycling. So that was really interesting, and you know, I would sew all the pages together and learn out all the bindings and then cover it in the fabric and the bookbinding fabric, and I just loved it. I love notebooks. Notebooks are my thing. Lots of things are my thing. That's okay. And I think that's when I started I started bookbinding seriously and selling my books just in craft fairs and to friends for Christmas presents and stuff, when I was doing my degree in Scotland, in Edinburgh. And when I got a job in Exeter, I was started to see this really nice page on Facebook, called the Patchwork Heart. And she's a lovely English lady who just makes the most beautiful, beautiful baby blankets and big blankets and just everything crochet. And it's just her colours, because I'd never really been into colour before. I was interested in line, in just capturing the essence of a shape of a person or a thing. So I was a line, black and white, all the time, printmaking. Just line drawings and layerings of the lines. And certain like pale muted colours, like not to take away from the actual drawing. And then, yeah, so I just started getting really interested in her colours, because they were very kind of sort of Cath Kidston inspired colours, you know, this beautiful, just really nice colours that you wouldn't expect to be put together. So I started crocheting, and I made everything. I made big blankets. I made a kind of a ripple blanket for my mother last Christmas. That was the first one I actually made, so I just kept that until Christmas. And then I made a big V-stitch blanket, like all different, like granny stitch, V-stitch blanket, all different colours. Like I went a bit rainbow in the middle, and then I went wild either side. And I gave that to a friend of mine before I left. And that was when I was in England. So I did most of my making there. Also, oh my gosh, there was 9 people that were having babies in my department, and 9 people out of a 40-person department is a large amount of people. We have no idea. Like, it's just the season. And we all knew it was going to happen because we were all kind of that age. Obviously not me. I don't have a baby, not married, travelling the world, having a great time. So I made so many baby blankets, and they were all crochet because knitting takes forever. Oh my gosh. I do know how to knit. I have known how to knit since I was like 7 or 8. My mum taught me. But it was like tiny little headbands, you know, 5 stitches across and stuff, you know, advanced, super advanced stuff. So yeah, so I started doing all these baby blankets, and there was a green kind of daisy blanket that I gave to a friend of mine in Edinburgh, Rachel, and that was really beautiful. I gave that to her little boy. And then I did a kind of a blues, greens and a purple ripple stitch blanket for one of my friends in work. Just a plain white one as well, which was really, really nice. It was all acrylic stuff that I was working with because, you know, fancy yarn is expensive, and I wasn't going to be spending that much on yarn and things like that, because I've always been really frugal, and I've just recently come out from being a student, and then I suddenly decided, oh, I want to go travelling, so I'm going to save all the money. And so I just bought acrylic, and nice acrylic, you know, acrylic can be soft and whatever. You know, obviously I would like to spend all the money on the nice fibres, and I will, but at that time I was acrylic, and they were beautiful colours, really nice colours. Not they didn't feel that great, but they're only going to be throws. They're not going to be like next to Skin Soft or anything. So, you know, I made another little blue granny stitch, like granny square blankets, and they were really, really, really nice, and I just loved doing them. And then so yeah, that's the things that I have been making. And then I noticed on my feed, on my Instagram feed. Now I didn't go on Instagram that much. I'm on there all the time now. But a friend of mine who I'd met through another friend, Mina Phillip, had a podcast, and I was like, what is this? Podcasting? Knitting podcasting as well, like what's that about? And it was yeah, you all know Mina, she's famous. I didn't know. She's lovely. I've only met her once, and then, you know, I used to watch her, or I used to read her podcasts about her Catterday updates, and she got those first little 2 cats. Oh, Hugo and Derek, they're so cute. In the last podcast she had, he was just right up in there. He was like, hello, I'm used to this now. Hello, what's this? little bum used to go across the screen all the time. And you were like, nobody wants to see your bum. I was like, I just want to just cuddle. Oh God, I really want a cat. But that's the problem. I am travelling. And that's the whole point of this podcast, is that when you're travelling, it can be a bit lonely being a knitter, and especially because I've been travelling on my own. I'm going to be joined soon by my boyfriend, who's going to join me, but he doesn't knit. I made him things. He's like, that's lovely. And I'm like, but nobody really gets it. You know, they all think I'm crazy. And I might be. That's okay. But yeah, so I started on this podcasting route first with Mina, and then she was like my gateway podcaster. And then she started mentioning all these other podcasters, and then I started just blitzing everybody. So I'm obsessed with Dan and Kay, and they're a beautiful, beautiful podcast full of history and knowledge and wisdom and cooking. I like that a lot. And then I blitzed Andrew Sue Knits, and I went through, who else? Hugh Loco, the Hugh Loco podcast. Love that. And Molly of a Homespun House. Oh, I haven't got through all of hers. Oh my gosh, so many. It's such beautiful, beautiful things. So yeah, and that's when I was like, oh no, knitting's still too hard. It's so difficult. And so I gave it a go. So I'll show you this is, in addition to all the stuff I've talked about previously, this is the only thing I'd like to talk about on this podcast. And the stuff I've been making as I'm travelling, I would like to do individual podcasts about those countries. Because there's so much to talk about, and I don't want to just shove it all in one podcast. So this is my introductions podcast. Let's just see if anyone's interested. So these are my English socks, and they're my first ever pair of socks. They're also the first proper thing I've knitted properly that I've finished, because I'm not a finisher normally. I am now, but I wasn't before. Like, blankets are different. It's just a square. You stop when it's kind of a square, when it doesn't even have to be a proper square. You know, just keep doing it. So these are the pattern that I used was Mina's 2 at a time socks. Now they came with the pattern, but I didn't have a clue how to read a pattern. Not a clue. I started these. Kind of inspiration was Danny from Little Bobbins. She had, her Christmas Eve cast on for socks, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. And literally I was like so excited. I bought the yarn when that was the last thing I got in England before I came back to Ireland to start my travels. So this was all I was gonna have. I was literally just gonna have this. I'd gotten rid of all the rest of my yarn. I'd used a lot of it up, and I'd given a lot of it away, and I gave everybody Christmas presents, and that was it. And I was like, no, this is it. This is the last thing. I'm going to use this for knitting on the plane. That's it. So it was Mina's 2 at a time sock pattern, because she inspired me. Because she was like, she's a demon, isn't she? She just keeps knitting. And it looks so, like, she's like, it's just round and round and round. And the amount of people that because I never thought I'd knit socks, but the amount of people that say it's addictive are totally right. I am addicted to these, but they're so pretty. Now, I've used them, I've worn them a lot, because it was really cold, surprisingly, in a couple of countries that I was in. So I wore these on like plane journeys and on the trains when there's too much air conditioning and far too much coldness involved, and also a weird weather snap that happened over Southeast Asia when I was there. So it's just a wrap and turn heel, And this is actually the best heel I've ever done. No, not true. Best wrap and turn heel I've ever done is the first one. Beginner's luck. And 2x2 rib with a classy, I didn't count how many stitches I put on, so that's just that's just four knits. That's fine, I don't care. Oh, it's on both sides. Huh. That's interesting. What was I thinking? And then in my first little toe shaping, I was so excited about these heels and toes. I was like, because all I'd ever knit before was rectangles, which I just stitched together and turned into like headbands. That's it. I did attempt a cardigan out of like really heavy like DK acrylic patterns, softies, fabric, and I striped it and everything. It was really pretty actually. It was going to be really pretty in my head, not in real life. So it was a really simple pattern. I literally, all my patterns, all my inspiration for knitting had come from Pinterest. I would just type in different patterns. I didn't even know anything about Ravelry, knew nothing. So Pinterest was my go-to. And I saw this one pattern for a cardigan, and it was basically an all-in-one knit. So there was going to be just 2 seams up the sides and under the arms. And you start knitting at the back. Just going to do it on screen. Just got to start knitting on the back, and then you'd increase out for the arms. I just did straight increases, there's no shaping. And then you knit, and then you knit, and then in the middle you're supposed to break for the neck. And then you come back in. I shaped a little bit, that was nice. And then you're supposed to come up from the neck, knit these 2 sides separately. I didn't know when to stop knitting the back, so I had started increasing it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll break for the neck at some point. And then suddenly it was like, oh, it's a gigantic woolen dress. Huge, like it went like, and I'm tall, right? So I'm 5'11", 6 in shoes, and it went like all the way down to my knee, because the yarn was so heavy, it just pulled, it just dragged down. So I knit all the way around to about there on the front, and then I was like, nope, I don't have time for this, because I started it in May. And I bought the yarn for my birthday, and I was knitting it around Christmas. I was like, I don't have time for this. I'm leaving, I'm packing, I'm throwing away all of my stuff, I'm knitting stuff for Christmas. I don't have time for this stupid thing. So I think I took out the needles, and they are following me out. Well, James is bringing them out with him. I've got another suitcase coming. Because so I was knitting these on the plane, and I love them. I love them so much. I love knitting socks so much. I love this yarn so much. Self-striping yarn. Why didn't I find out about this sooner? Why have I not known about this? Like, it's so beautiful. Like, it's totally worn now, but it's so nice. It's so lovely. It's bamboo. I think it's 50% merino, 25% bamboo, and then 25% nylon. So they should last a good long while, like, they should. So, yes. And then that was all I was going to do. I was like, oh, that's it. I'll just knit myself some socks. I don't have space in my suitcase. I was travelling with hand luggage only for 2 months around Southeast Asia. Landed in Singapore, and the first thing I did was find yarn shops. I just googled them, yarn shops in Singapore, and I found loads, and it was really interesting. That's what I've taken to doing from all of the different places I've been, was going on yarn hunts. So I would hunt them down, so I would like really take you off the beaten track, you know, and it would really show you the inner parts of the cities. Like, it's taken me to like really dodgy areas and really fancy areas. I'm going to talk more about each different country I went to, but I'll just give you a quick rundown of where I've been the last 2 months. So I landed in Singapore, and then I travelled overland through Malaysia, and then overland into southern Thailand, up into Bangkok. I went up to Chiang Mai, and then across to Chiang Rai, and then down through Laos. That's when the really cold weather hit. And then I I flew from the capital of Laos, Vientiane, to Hanoi, and then down Vietnam, all the way to the bottom to Ho Chi Minh City, and then I flew to Myanmar, Burma. That was so interesting. Oh God, I've got so much to talk about for that. Oh, so interesting. And then I flew back from Myanmar after 2 weeks, spent 2 weeks there on a tour because it's a bit tricky to get around, and meant I went to Cambodia for a few days, which was so interesting as well. Like, I was only there for 3 days, but I have a lot to say about it. So yeah, and I'm probably going to do a podcast about Cambodia and my experiences travelling with the knitting, which I have some funny stories. So many funny stories, which mainly involve me trying to convince a security officer at the airport that I'll totally knit him something if he leaves me on with the knitting needle. It worked, so I'll get into that more in another podcast. If you're interested, do let me know. I don't want to just do, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours worth of a podcast and everyone's like, I'm bored, I'm so bored, oh my God. It's just too much information to do in one podcast. And also, I would have liked to start doing this when I was there. So my plan is to talk about all the different countries and show you some photos, kind of intersperse them between, talk about where I went, where I was going, and how I picked up the yarn, and where I picked up the yarn, and how it was different, and what types they used, and who knits in Southeast Asia. Fascinating cultural differences, which I haven't really heard many people talk about. So I thought it'd be an interesting, different way of doing a podcast that people might be interested in. So yeah, after I've done maybe 4 podcasts every week, maybe, or 2 weeks, I'll see. I will be starting to travel again because I'm now in Perth, in Australia, and I'm living with my brother for a couple of months, for 2 months, until my boyfriend comes out to see me, and we go travelling together. We're going to rent a caravan or camper van or something. I think we might just buy it and then sell it again. And we're going to travel down the east coast of Australia. And he wants to see all the biggest things. Apparently it's a big thing. They have like the world's biggest, I don't know, banana, the world's biggest peanut, the world's biggest, I don't know, bottle of water. I don't know. He's like, we're going to see all of them. And I'm like, I'm stopping in every yarn shop. Every single one. And there's like alpaca farms. Alpaca's big down in Australia, in case you didn't know. And they do have incredible wool here. So yeah, we're going to be doing quite a lot of travelling, and I'll be doing kind of more on the road podcasting, which could be interesting, could be good. Also, it could be not so good. But it's, that's what I'm just giving this a go, give it a try. Everyone seems so like that they really, really enjoy it, and I'm sick of talking to myself. I think I just want to share my yarny adventures. Like, what do you do when nobody around you knows what a stitch marker is and you really need one? I use my ring. Or I found a washer. I found a hardware shop. And I just got like a giant bunch of washers, and they were like, "What? Why do you need this?" I'm like, "'Cause I'm knitting." They're like, I'm like, "Okay, that's 10 cents." And I was like, "Awesome." And like how to make your own progress keeper. And no, it was like, yeah, the ones where you need to know so the stitch markers, and need to know where you need to start a new round. So I had to like make different ones like as I was travelling. It's just exciting, interesting, funny little things that I think are funny, and I think other knitters would find funny. And I'm also hilarious, so it helps a lot. Subject to personal preference. So, yeah. What do you guys think?